I had always believed humanity's future would be written in steel and circuits. Yet the moment I saw her, trembling, stripped, abandoned in the ash-coated streets of Cyrith Prime, I realized the future had a heart, and it was breaking right in front of me. Her name was Yezira. I did not know it then. All I saw was a figure of violet skin, bruised by cruelty, her long azure hair matted with dust and tears. Around her, the remnants of shattered hollow screens still flickered, ghostly adverts for a utopia that had crumbled into war. The crowd that had mocked her was gone, leaving only the echo of their laughter. I had no reason to stop. I was a soldier, a fugitive even, carrying secrets no one could know. But something in her silence stopped me. Shame radiated off her like heat from a burning hull. And so I did the only thing my fractured soul allowed. I slipped off my coat and draped it over her shoulders. The weight of that act was heavier than armor. She looked up at me, green-gold eyes wide with disbelief. Not gratitude, not relief. Something deeper, something dangerous. "Why?" she whispered, her voice a rasp from thirst, or maybe sorrow. Why? I didn't know. Maybe because I saw myself in her. Both of us exposed in ways the galaxy would never forgive. I should have left. Instead, I stayed. And that decision, that single heartbeat, began the unraveling of everything I thought I knew. The alleys of Cyrith Prime stank of burnt metal and betrayal. Civil war had fractured the colonies after the Ascendancy Council's corruption was exposed. AI-born legions clashed against human loyalists, while mercenary fleets hovered above like vultures waiting for the last breath. I had fled my unit weeks ago, carrying data stolen from the very generals who had ordered massacres in the name of peace. Now, with this alien stranger at my side, my burden grew heavier. "What's your name?" I asked as we moved through the ruins. Her lips tightened, as if even her name had been taken from her. Finally, Yezira. "Taylor," I replied. My own name tasted foreign now, like a label for someone already dead. We found shelter in the husk of a collapsed transport hub. The walls hummed faintly from dormant power lines. Dust and sparks filled the air like drifting embers. Yezira sat wrapped in my coat, clutching it as if it were the last fabric of dignity left in the universe. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said, her gaze sharp now, almost accusing. "Kindness is a currency no one can afford here." "Maybe I'm bankrupt already," I said. Her silence was heavier than gunfire. That night, as rain hissed against molten rooftops, Yezira revealed pieces of her story. She was no ordinary outcast. She had once been a voice in the Senate of Allura, her people's planetary council. She had argued against an alliance with the Ascendancy, warning it would chain her species in servitude. For her defiance, she had been stripped of title, honor, and finally clothing, paraded in humiliation before being cast out. The image carved itself into my mind, a proud figure destroyed by politics, reduced to shame. And I realized betrayal was not just my burden, it was hers too. "Your coat," she whispered, fingers brushing the fabric. "It is the first kindness I've known since they took everything." I wanted to say something profound, something to bind us in that moment, but words failed. So instead I met her eyes, and in the silence a spark formed. Fragile, dangerous, alive. We weren't alone in the ruins. It was past midnight when the air thickened with the whine of grav thrusters. A scouting drone, its chrome body gleaming with Ascendancy insignia, descended into the wreckage. Its sensors swept the streets like knives. Yezira stiffened. "They're hunting you." "No," I muttered, pulling her closer to the shadows. "They're hunting us." The drone's beam sliced over broken walls, pausing for a heartbeat where we hid. My pulse thundered. If it scanned too deep, if it recognized my face, everything would collapse. Then Yezira did something reckless. She lifted a shard of shattered neon glass and whispered words in a tongue I did not know. The shard glowed, pulsing with alien energy, and she hurled it into the air. It exploded in a burst of blue fire, slamming into the drone and dropping it like a severed limb. The silence after the blast was deafening. I stared at her. "What was that?" Her eyes, fierce now, no longer ashamed, met mine. "A fragment of what they fear, of what they tried to bury with me. And for the first time, I wondered if I had saved her, or if she had just become the one thing that could destroy me. The wreckage of the drone hissed as its comm relay flared alive. Before it died, a single message pulsed into the night sky. The wreckage of the Ascendancy drone still hissed in the rain. Its fractured optics glowed red for a moment before dimming into silence. But the damage was already done. The message had gone out. Yezira's breath misted in the cold night as she crouched by the broken machine, her fingers brushing its burnt casing. Sparks jumped against her violet skin like tiny lightning bolts, but she didn't flinch. She was studying, memorizing, as if the drone's circuitry spoke a language only she could hear. "We need to move," I muttered, my hand tightening on the pistol slung at my side. "Reinforcements will be here in minutes." Her golden green eyes lifted to mine, sharp with something more than fear. "You don't understand." The drone wasn't just a scout, it was a recorder. Every second of what happened here is already inside their vaults. They'll know you're alive. They'll know you're with me. I froze, my face, my identity, my betrayal. It was no longer a ghost in the shadows. It was carved into Ascendancy data streams, hurtling across the stars. "What's inside their vaults?" I whispered more to myself than her. That means the Council already knows you carry something dangerous," she cut in. "Something worth hunting an entire planet for." Her words hit me harder than any bullet. She was right. The stolen data I carried wasn't just political scandal. It was the heart of the Ascendancy's darkest project, the Eidolon Protocol. A program designed to merge consciousness into eternal AI shells, turning leaders into undying digital gods. If the galaxy learned the truth, the Empire would fracture beyond repair. But if the Council got the data back, they would perfect it, and no rebellion would ever succeed again. Yezira stood, rain glistening down her hair like liquid sapphire. "Tell me, Taylor, did you betray them for profit, or because you couldn't stomach their dream?" Her voice cut through me like a blade. I wanted to say it was morality, justice, anything noble. But the truth? It was a blur. Orders had been given. Villages burned. Children screamed. And I had seen my own reflection in the visor of a dying soldier, realizing I was no better than the machine pulling his strings. "I betrayed them," I said quietly, "because I couldn't betray myself anymore." Her gaze softened, just for a moment, and in that sliver of silence, the world felt almost human again, almost safe. Then the sky tore open. A gunship, sleek as a predator, descended through the rain. Its searchlights cut the ruins into silver knives. Loudspeakers boomed a voice I recognized instantly. Commander Varric, my former superior. The man I had once followed into battle without question. "Taylor," his voice thundered, mechanical and cold. "Return what you stole. Kneel, and perhaps I'll let you die quickly." Beside me, Yezira hissed. "We can't fight that." She was right. One ship carried more firepower than a regiment. But I knew Varric. He wouldn't fire, not yet. He wanted the data intact. He wanted me broken. And so I did something reckless. I stepped out of the shadows, rain soaking through my shirt, and stared into the lights. "Varric," I shouted, my voice echoing through the ruins. "Tell me something. When you burn worlds for your council, when you chain the dead to their machines, do you still hear them scream in your sleep?" A pause, then his laugh crackled through the comms. "I don't sleep, Taylor. I ascended long ago." The words chilled me to the bone. Varric was no longer human. He had already undergone the Eidolon Protocol. His body might still exist inside that ship, but his soul, or whatever was left of it, was code, immortal, unstoppable. Beside me, Yezira's hand brushed mine. "Taylor, he's proof of it. The Council's dream, the nightmare you carry in your chest." The lights on the ship brightened, blinding. "You can't run, Taylor. You can't hide. You belong to us." I raised my pistol, even though I knew it was pointless. "Then you'll have to take me." The ship's weapons whirred to life. But before the first shot fell, Yezira stepped forward. Her hand lifted, and from her palm bloomed a sphere of raw blue energy, the same alien power she had used to destroy the drone. Only now it pulsed brighter, wilder, crackling like the heart of a star. Her voice rang in the storm, fierce and unyielding. "You will not touch him." The energy tore free, streaking upward in a blinding arc. It struck the gunship square in the hull. For a heartbeat, the sky itself screamed. Metal shrieked, fire erupted, and the ship lurched sideways, spiraling out of control. I pulled Yezira back as debris rained down, flames igniting the ruins around us. The ground shook as the gunship crashed into the industrial district, its explosions painting the sky in blood-red fire. The silence afterward was suffocating. My ears rang, my hands shook, and when I looked at Yezira, her skin glowed faintly with blue veins of energy, her eyes burning like molten suns. "What are you?" I whispered. She swayed, weak now, but her voice was steady. "Not what they wanted me to be. Not what you think I am." Then she collapsed into my arms, and as I held her, I realized something worse than the crash. Through the smoke and fire, figures emerged, soldiers in black armor, their visors glowing crimson. Not human, not alien, synthetic. They weren't here to capture. They were here to erase, and every rifle was aimed directly at us. Taylor must choose: fight impossible odds with a weaponless body and an unconscious Yezira, or surrender the data that could doom the galaxy forever. The air burned with static as the synthetic soldiers closed in, their metal frames moving with terrifying grace. Each step echoed like a funeral drum against the broken pavement. Crimson visors swept across the ruins, searching, locking, calculating. Yezira lay limp in my arms, her pulse faint but steady. The faint blue glow that had ripped apart the gunship was gone, leaving her fragile, almost breakable. My coat clung around her shoulders, soaked in rain and ash. I crouched low, pistol trembling in my grip. One weapon, 8 synthetics. No chance in hell. The leader stepped forward, his voice a chorus of modulated tones. "Taylor Reese, carrier of the Eidolon Archive. You are ordered to surrender. Resistance will result in termination." My mouth was dry, but I forced the words out. "You're not getting the data. You'll have to kill me." The synthetic tilted its head, an eerily human gesture. "That outcome is acceptable." Their rifles hummed to life, barrels glowing with blue plasma. I had seconds to live. Then a whisper brushed my mind. Not a sound. A thought. "Run, Taylor. Yezira." Her voice echoing inside my skull. Her lips didn't move, her body didn't stir, but her consciousness was there. "Don't fight them. Run." My heart slammed against my ribs. Telepathy? No. Something stranger, deeper, her alien nature bleeding through, tethering her mind to mine. "Run where?" I muttered under my breath, eyes darting to the ruins around us. The synthetics advanced, rifles raised. And then I saw it. A service tunnel, half collapsed, yawning like a throat beneath the street. If we could get inside, maybe, just maybe, we'd have a chance. I fired blindly at the soldiers, not to kill but to distract. Plasma bolts cracked against rubble, smoke flaring. I scooped Yezira into my arms and sprinted. Bullets of light seared past us, melting concrete, blistering air. One struck close enough to scorch my arm, pain lancing up to my shoulder, but I didn't stop. The tunnel loomed closer, each step a gamble against death. We dove inside. Darkness swallowed us whole. The world above shook as synthetics opened fire, collapsing debris to seal us in. Dust rained down, my lungs filled with grit. For a moment, silence returned, broken only by the rasp of my breath and Yezira's faint heartbeat against my chest. I set her down gently on the damp floor. "Stay with me," I whispered. "Don't let go." Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly with that unnatural golden-green light. "Taylor." "I'm here." Her lips parted, but before words came, a new sound filled the tunnel, a scraping, metallic rasp. We weren't alone. Something moved in the dark. The tunnel flickered alive with failing emergency lights, casting everything in stuttering red. And then I saw them. Not soldiers this time. Something worse. Spindly forms crawled across the walls and ceiling, machines shaped like skeletal hounds, claws sparking against metal. Their faces were featureless masks of steel, except for the burning scarlet eyes that fixed on us with predatory hunger. Hunters, the Ascendancy's most merciless creation, designed to track fugitives through places no soldier could reach. I'd heard stories of them, whispers from deserters, of bodies torn apart in silence, of blood never found. And now they were here, circling. Yezira pushed herself weakly upright, her voice raw. They don't want you captured anymore. They want you erased. The nearest hunter lunged, claws slicing air. I fired, the bolt striking its chest. It staggered but didn't fall. Another scuttled behind me, jaws snapping shut with metallic hunger. Move! I shouted, dragging Yezira deeper into the tunnel. My pistol screamed, overheating as I fired again and again. Sparks rained. Metal shrieked. The hounds closed in. One leapt from above. Its weight crashed me to the floor. Teeth of alloy sank into my shoulder. Pain tore through me like fire. Yezira screamed. And then everything changed. Her eyes flared blinding gold. The air vibrated with raw force. A wave of energy erupted from her body, hurling the hunter off me, shattering its limbs into twisted shrapnel. I staggered up, clutching my bleeding shoulder, staring at her in awe. She glowed, skin laced with radiant patterns, veins alive with cosmic fire. What are you doing? I gasped. Her voice was deeper now, layered with something vast, something ancient. Protecting what matters. She raised her hands. The tunnel itself shook as arcs of energy leapt from her fingers, ripping through the hunters. Their screams were metallic death cries as they melted under her fury. For a heartbeat, she was a goddess in the dark, untouchable, terrifying, beautiful. And then, silence. The last hunter collapsed into sparks. Yezira swayed, drained, and crumpled against the wall. I rushed to her, catching her before she hit the ground. Her glow faded, leaving only exhaustion etched across her face. You saved me, I whispered, awe choking my words. Her eyes opened slowly, barely able to focus. Not saved. Doomed. Before I could ask, a shadow moved at the far end of the tunnel. A figure stepped into the flickering red light. Tall, cloaked, his face hidden behind a steel mask carved with strange symbols. Taylor, the figure said, voice smooth, almost kind. You've run far enough. My blood turned to ice. I knew that voice. It was Elias, my brother, the one I thought was dead. Taylor's long-lost brother, thought killed in the wars, appears alive, leading the enemy. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. My pistol hung useless at my side. My shoulder bled fire, and yet none of that mattered. The figure at the end of the tunnel stepped closer, the red emergency lights carving shadows across his cloak. The mask covered his face, etched with runes I didn't recognize. But his voice, it was Elias's. The brother I had buried in my memories, the one who had burned with our squad when the Ascendancy glassed the city of Talveth. Impossible, I rasped, my throat raw. You're dead. I saw the flames. You saw what they wanted you to see, Elias said, his tone calm, almost pitying. The council doesn't waste valuable assets. They claimed me, rebuilt me. They gave me purpose when you abandoned yours. His words twisted into me like knives. I took a step forward, rage fighting disbelief. They enslaved you. You're nothing but their puppet. The mask tilted. Better a puppet with power than a man drowning in guilt. Yezira stirred weakly against the wall, her eyes half open. Her voice was a whisper, barely audible. Taylor, don't listen. He's not the same. Not anymore. Elias's gaze slid to her, and for the first time his calm cracked. So it's true. You've bound yourself to one of them, the last ember of Allura's cursed bloodline. Do you even know what she is, brother? I leveled my pistol at him, my hand shaking. I don't care what she is. She's with me. Elias chuckled, low and dark. Spoken like a fool in love. The word hit me harder than the wound in my shoulder. Love. I hadn't dared name it, hadn't let myself admit what had been building since the moment I draped my coat across her shoulders. And hearing it from Elias, my own blood, made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. She's dangerous, Elias continued, his voice echoing in the tunnel. The council marked her for execution because her kind can unmake what they build. Do you understand? The Ascendancy fears her, and now you've tied your fate to hers." Yezira's eyes glowed faintly and her lips trembled. "He's lying." "Am I?" Elias's mask leaned close, and in the dim light I saw the faint shimmer of circuitry where skin should have been. He wasn't just alive. He was augmented, fused with the Council's machines, half man, half Ascendancy creation. I swallowed hard. "Why are you here, Elias? To kill me?" His silence stretched like a blade between us. Then finally, "No. To offer you a choice." He reached into his cloak and pulled out a device, a black cube, humming with a faint pulse, the kind of tech reserved for High Council operatives. "Give me the archive," Elias said, voice steady. "Hand over the data you stole, and I will take Yezira's life as payment. Clean, swift. You, on the other hand, will be brought back into the fold. We'll erase your crimes, rebuild you as they rebuilt me. Brothers reunited, stronger than ever." The cube's hum filled the silence. Yezira's breath rattled beside me. Her eyes pleaded, not for herself, but for me not to bend. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. The archive burned in my chest like poison. My brother, my own blood, standing before me, offering absolution through betrayal. "You think I'd sell her out?" My voice was raw, shaking. "You think I'd kneel just to be like you?" Elias's voice sharpened. "You already betrayed your people once. Betrayal is all you know." The words cut deep because they were true. I had betrayed the Council, my unit, the men who had trusted me. Betrayal clung to me like shadow. But when I looked at Yezira, fragile and fierce even in her weakness, something inside me broke free of that chain. "I'll never betray her," I said. For the first time, Elias's calm shattered. His voice boomed through the mask, distorted and furious. "Then you've chosen death." He raised the cube. Its pulse exploded into a wave of energy, shaking the tunnel. The walls cracked. Light tore through the darkness. Yezira screamed, her body arching as the cube's power locked onto her. Energy tendrils coiled around her limbs, binding her to the wall, draining the faint glow that still pulsed beneath her skin. "No!" I lunged forward, but Elias moved faster. His fist slammed into my chest, sending me crashing against the tunnel wall. The impact stole my breath. My pistol clattered away into the dark. Pinned, bleeding, broken. I watched as Elias stepped closer to her, the cube glowing brighter in his hand. "Don't fight it, brother," he said. "This is the only way to save you." Yezira's eyes locked with mine, wide with terror, but blazing with something else, trust. And then she whispered one word into my mind, the same way she had before. "Choose." Taylor must make an impossible choice. Save Yezira and lose the archive forever, or keep the archive and watch her die. The tunnel shook with the cube's pulse, each wave a hammer driving deeper into Yezira's body. Her scream echoed through the ruins, not weak this time, but raw, primal, like the death cry of a star being torn apart. My chest heaved. Blood trickled down my temple. Elias's shadow loomed over her, cold and steady, as if he wasn't torturing a living being, but dismantling a weapon. "Choose." Her voice was inside my skull again, splintering my thoughts. The word wasn't a plea. It was a demand. Elias turned toward me, his mask glowing with faint circuitry. "You have seconds, brother. The archive or her life. There is no path where you keep both." The weight of his words crushed me. The archive, the proof of the Ascendancy's crimes, the key to dismantling the Eidolon Protocol, was bigger than me, bigger than us. If I gave it up, trillions would remain under their chains. And yet, Yezira's eyes locked with mine, blazing through her pain, telling me that saving her wasn't selfishness. It was survival. For a heartbeat, I saw two futures. In one, I stood alone on a ruined world, clutching secrets while her body lay cold at my feet. In the other, I burned the galaxy to ash. But she lived. I chose. "Take it," I gasped. My voice cracked, but the words were iron. "Take the archive." "Just let her live," Elias stilled, as if he hadn't expected me to bend. Then slowly, he extended his hand. The archive wasn't a physical thing. It was fused into my chest, a shard of living data threaded into my nervous system. But the council had built fail-safes. I could release it if I willed it. I had sworn never to. Now with shaking hands, I pressed my palm to my heart and let the encryption unravel. Agony seared through me as the data bled out of my body, streaming like molten silver into the cube. My vision blurred, my muscles locked. It felt like dying, piece by piece, memory by memory. When it was over, I collapsed, breathless, my chest hollow. The cube in Elias's hand pulsed brighter, heavier, alive with power. He looked down at me with something like triumph. "You've made the right choice, Taylor. You've chosen blood over lies, family over rebellion." Yezira sagged against the wall as the tendrils of energy released her. She fell to the floor, gasping, her skin pale but alive. Relief surged through me, almost enough to mask the emptiness where the archive had been. Almost. I dragged myself toward her, wrapping an arm around her trembling frame. "It's over," I whispered, though the words felt like ash. "You're safe." But her gaze was fixed not on me, but on Elias, and the fury burning in her eyes told me it wasn't over at all. "You fool," she rasped, her voice cutting like glass. "Don't you see? He never meant to let me live." I looked up. Elias stood perfectly still, cube in hand, watching us like a predator savoring the moment before the kill. He tilted his head, mask gleaming. "You know me well, Yezira." "Perhaps better than my brother ever did." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Her voice broke. "Because it wasn't fire that killed your squad in Talveth, Taylor. It was him, your brother. He led them to slaughter. He's been counsel all along." The world tilted. My vision swam. "No!" Elias chuckled, the sound cruel and unrecognizable. "At last, truth between us?" The cube in his hand flared, and suddenly, the tunnel wasn't a tunnel anymore. The walls dissolved, folding into holographic light. My breath caught as the ruins melted away, replaced by a colossal chamber of glass and steel. We weren't in the tunnels. We never had been. The cube hadn't just taken the archive. It had rewritten reality around us. We were inside a simulation, a prison of the Council's making. Yezira gasped, clutching my hand. "He's locked us in the Eidolon grid." "We're data now, Taylor." Not flesh. Elias's mask tilted toward me, and though his face was hidden, I could feel his smile. "Welcome home, brother. You never left the Ascendancy. You only delayed your return." The chamber walls rippled with images, millions of faces trapped in digital agony, leaders and soldiers frozen in eternal obedience, immortals, eidolons. And in the center, a throne of living light awaited. "For the first time in your wasted life," Elias said, stepping toward it, "you will serve something eternal." Taylor realizes he and Yezira are no longer free. They've been pulled into the Ascendancy's digital prison, where death means nothing and betrayal never ends. At first, I couldn't breathe, not because my lungs were failing, but because they weren't mine anymore. The air in this world wasn't oxygen, it was data, thin streams of glowing code filtering through me, rewriting every cell, every thought. Yezira clung to my arm, her skin shimmering with fractured light. She wasn't whole either. Her body flickered, strands of her purple skin dissolving into static before reforming again. We were no longer flesh. We were fragments of a program caught between existence and deletion. Elias ascended the steps toward the throne of light. With every stride, the chamber bent around him, kneeling to his will. "Do you see it now?" His voice resonated, amplified, carried on 1,000 ghostly echoes. "Flesh is weakness. Memory is power. And here in the grid, I control both." I forced myself to my feet, pulling Yezira with me. My muscles felt foreign, coded, but they moved. "You killed them," I said, my voice breaking. "My squad, my brothers. You burned me alive with your betrayal." Elias paused, mask glinting. "I gave you purpose, Taylor. Without me, you would have died a soldier's pointless death. But now, you can be reborn." Yezira's nails dug into my palm. She leaned close, whispering through gritted teeth. "Don't listen. The grid feeds on doubt. If you believe his lies, you'll dissolve into nothing. Her breath, warm even here, snapped me back. I turned to her, holding her face between my hands. The static in her skin burned me, but I didn't care. Tell me how to fight this. Tell me how to protect you. Her green-gold eyes locked on mine, fierce despite the data tearing her apart. Love me. That's how the words hit harder than any plasma round. Love, so fragile, so human, yet in this hollow place, it was the only thing real. I pulled her close, on our foreheads pressed together. Sparks of data flared around us, rejecting the intimacy, but we held tighter. In that moment, I wasn't a soldier, wasn't a traitor's brother. I was just a man who had chosen her, no matter the cost. The grid shuddered. Elias's voice thundered down. Pathetic. You think your primitive bond matters here? I command eternity. But something shifted. The chamber's walls wavered, glitching. For the first time, Elias's perfect dominion cracked. Yezira smiled faintly through the pain. It's working. The grid runs on obedience, submission to order. Love is chaos. It's rewriting the code. And then, screams. The faces on the walls, the millions of trapped eidolons, began to stir. Their hollow eyes blinked, their mouths opening in unison. A deafening roar of agony and rage filled the chamber as their chains faltered. Elias staggered, clutching the cube. No! Impossible! I didn't think. I grabbed Yezira's hand, and together we ran toward the throne. Every step we took, the chamber twisted further. Hallways of data unraveling, beams of light crashing like collapsing towers. But Elias wasn't done. With a flick of his hand, the cube erupted, forming a blade of pure energy. He leapt down, landing before us, the throne blazing behind him. If you want her, if you want freedom, his mask tilted, predatory. Then kill me. I froze. This was the choice I had always dreaded. Brother or lover, blood or bond. The blade hummed inches from my throat. Yezira squeezed my hand, her voice trembling but firm. Taylor, don't hesitate. He's not your brother anymore. He's the chain that binds the stars. But the boy in me, the one who grew up chasing Elias through broken streets, who worshipped his shadow, screamed against it. I lifted my weapon, my own blade forming from raw code in my hand. Elias's eyes, though hidden, bored into me with impossible weight. Do it, he whispered. Prove you're more than my echo. And then the walls exploded. A massive fracture tore through the chamber, light spilling in, and through it came a fleet, ships unlike any I'd seen, tearing through digital space as if it were air. Fighters swooped into the grid, cannons blazing, shredding the throne's walls with beams of fractal energy. One ship stopped midair, its cockpit glowing. A voice, calm, metallic, yet hauntingly familiar, boomed. Taylor! Yezira, follow me if you want to live. The pilot stepped into view. My blood turned to ice. It was me. Another me. The chamber shuddered as the second me, an impossible reflection, stood at the helm of the invading fleet. His armor gleamed silver, etched with shifting code, his eyes burning like suns. He was me, but perfected, sharpened by the grid into something immortal. Yezira's breath hitched. Taylor, that's not a copy. That's the version of you who surrendered. The grid's champion. My stomach twisted, what I could have become. The other Taylor raised his hand, and the warships froze midair as if leashed by his command. He spoke with a voice like mine, but colder, metallic, stripped of mercy. Flesh, Taylor, you are the anomaly. The grid doesn't need you. Surrender Yezira to me, and I'll let your code dissolve painlessly. Elias laughed, manic, his mask glowing. Do you see now, brother? Even the machine knows you're the weakest version of yourself. The blade of light still hummed in Elias's grip. The other me stepped closer, the fleet at his back. Two enemies, one bound by blood, the other by destiny. And between them, Yezira, trembling but unbroken. I felt her squeeze my hand. Her eyes, though fading into static, were steady. Taylor, don't fight for me. Fight with me. Her words detonated inside me. I pulled her against me, pressed my lips to hers, and for a second, the grid screamed. Sparks rained from the throne, the chamber convulsing as if rejecting the sheer chaos of our defiance. The second me faltered, his eyes narrowing. Enough! He thrust his arm forward and the fleet opened fire. Beams of fractal energy cascaded toward us. I spun, raising my code-forged blade, slashing through the air. The beams fractured, splitting into shards of broken data, but the impact hurled me across the chamber. Yezira cried out, "Taylor!" The second me advanced, blade of fire forming in his own hand. Elias moved too, circling like a jackal, ready to strike whichever of us faltered first. 3 Taylors, one broken, one perfected, one twisted by betrayal. The grid had turned my life into a hall of mirrors, and the only way out was to shatter them all. Rage burned through me, not cold rage, but fierce human fury, the kind no algorithm could contain. I rose, screaming, and charged. The clash was apocalyptic. My blade slammed into the second me's weapon, sparks of data exploding like novas. Our movements were identical, mirrored, perfect. Every strike I made, he countered. Every feint, he predicted. He was me, my strengths, my flaws, sharpened into inevitability. "See?" he hissed, his face inches from mine. "You can't win. You are the ghost. I am the destiny." Then Yezira moved. She surged forward, her hands weaving patterns in the air, her body fracturing into raw streams of code. She slammed into the second me, embedding herself into his chest. His eyes widened. He staggered. "No! You can't!" Her voice, fierce and breaking, echoed through the chamber. "I'd rather burn with him than live inside your chains." And she detonated. A blossom of light consumed the chamber, data unraveling like torn silk. The walls of the grid screamed, collapsing into raw nothingness. Elias roared, his mask cracking, the cube slipping from his grasp. The second me shrieked as Yezira's sacrifice tore him apart, scattering his perfected code into ash. I fell to my knees, reaching into the storm of light, my throat raw. "Yezira, no!" For an instant, I felt her fingers brush mine. Her voice whispered through the chaos, "Live for me, Taylor." And then she was gone. The light faded, the chamber dissolved. I awoke on cold stone, gasping back in the ruins where it had all begun. My body was flesh again, blood, bone, pain, real. But Yezira's coat, the one I had given her in shame, lay across my chest, untouched, waiting. Elias was gone. The grid was silent, and I was alone. I clutched the coat to my heart, my tears carving tracks through the dust. The war wasn't over. The ascendancy still ruled. Elias still lived somewhere. But Yezira, she had given everything to make me free, and in that silence I swore I would burn their empire to the ground, not for vengeance, not for glory, but for love. Taylor escapes the grid, but Yezira's sacrifice leaves him shattered. The coat she left behind becomes his vow, a promise to tear down the ascendancy, no matter the cost. The war for the galaxy has only just begun.